What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Quill and Hammer. I'm Trevor. This is Zach. Zach, guess what today is?
What's today, Trev?
Today is one of the best days in the entire year because it marks college football's return. Go Cougs.
You'll forgive me if I don't share your enthusiasm.
Well, it hurts my soul, but
I know.
what can
I
you
know.
do? No, it doesn't really matter. It's just one of my favorite times of year, so I'm extra happy. But we're not going to talk about that today. Today, Zach, what are we talking about?
Well, we're continuing with our dissection of Marvel, specifically post Endgame, and we are going to take it back. Last week we did Captain America Brave New World. This week we are doing Black Widow, going back to one of the earlier films in phase five, four.
For
The end. Well, I thought Endgame was the end of phase four.
Endgame was the end of phase three, and
Okay.
phase four officially started what they are calling the multiverse, um,
Saga.
whatever saga. Um, Supposedly. Maybe I'm wrong, but it is phase four. It was the first movie in phase four. So, Black Widow. Now, Zach, you watched these more or less as they came out, right?
More or less, yeah.
So, I have not. I had to go back just this week and watch Black Widow for the first time. So, we've got different perspectives, but I want to start, as we always do, what worked for you and what didn't work.
I mean, what was good and what was bad are almost the same thing. And I'll sum it up by saying it was inoffensive. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't anything to write home about in my mind. It was kind of just there. It felt like a lot of filler. There wasn't really anything I was too put off by, but I mean, in the end, it was kind of just a movie, and I think
Right.
that kind of sums up my feelings. It was just there, you know?
Right. So let me ask this question before we move on, and that way we can get it out of the way. Is this going to be I mean, we were coming off of Endgame,
Right.
and I'm just pulling up um the movie list so I can parse it through in my mind. But we just came off of Endgame. And was this the first movie since Endgame that started off? Okay, it wasn't the first. So we had Endgame and then Far From Home came out.
Right.
Both, in our opinions, two incredible movies.
Right.
So with that in mind, were we always going to be disappointed by whatever movie they came out with next?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think so because you shouldn't, your enjoyment of a film shouldn't be based on what came before, especially when you have these standalone focus on one superhero type movies. It's one thing to go into Infinity War and you have a part one, part two essentially of Avengers and say, okay, well, Infinity War set up these things and I'm expecting this kind of a payoff, and then it not happening in the sequel.
Right.
Similar to our continued gripes about the Star Wars sequel trilogy, right?
Yes.
Force Awakens set things up. They weren't paid off in the way that we wanted them to, and so we were disappointed. I
Right.
don't think the same logic applies here. Endgame was Endgame. And it did mark a conclusion to a certain portion of the MCU, a certain portion of Marvel films, especially with the death of Tony Stark. It's like it was marking a new direction, a new beginning.
Right.
And I don't think anybody expected it to be Endgame. But what I do think they expected was something to at least do justice to whatever film was going to come out. And take Spider-Man Far From Home. That came right off the tails of Endgame, and it was a success. It was an incredible film because it did justice to the characters. It explored um, real character development, real character problems in the aftermath of losing a trusted advisor and mentor. You know what I mean? Like these were real character development arcs that happened.
Right.
Now, I think they could have done something similar with Black Widow, but, and I guess I'm already getting into what I dislike about it, but they, I think they chose the wrong film. The time was past to do a Black Widow standalone film because we already knew what happened post Endgame. Endgame, she dies. She can't come back because she was sacrificed to get the Soul Stone.
Right.
That's it. But if you go back in time, there's no tension. You know she's going to get out of it, so you don't really feel any tension there. You have the introduction of the Red Guardian and Yelena Belova. I think I'm saying her name right. And you have to assume that they too are going to make it through because why would you introduce two new superheroes, especially when you know that in the current timeline, the titular character is dead. So you're introducing these two new people. It's obvious that they are meant to pseudo replace Black Widow. So you know that everybody's going to make it out. There's no real tension.
Right.
And I think my yeah, it just fell flat. There was nothing. Sure, there were action scenes, there was fighting, but it was there were very low stakes in my mind because you knew that everything was going to be fine afterward, you know?
Right.
And maybe, and I guess I'll save this comment for when we're reforging, but there just nothing changed. You go from beginning of the film to the end of the film, nothing changed. There wasn't even really any development in Black Widow's character. Maybe she becomes a little more compassionate, but not really. You know what I mean? Like there just wasn't much to it. And I think that's my big problem with this film.
Um, it's fair, but I disagree because, and maybe I'm wrong. So, uh, you have all of these people under contract, right?
Sure.
So you've got Scarlett Johansson who has one more movie presumably on her contract, so they have to do something. They've already had this in the works, whatever, I guess. But even if that isn't the case, I think that the point of this movie again is to start assembling new people. What's his name? Red Guardian and sister number two, not number two, the sister whose name I can't, Yolanda, is that her name?
Yelena,
Yelena.
I
Like,
think.
it seems like this phase four of Marvel, which they're calling the Multiverse Saga again, um, like they're trying to bring in the next group, right? The next
Sure.
thing. And I'm okay with that. I am. Especially after having gone back and not having been in the Marvel universe for a long time. I think since Endgame, I've only cared about Star Wars because we love Tom Holland.
You mean
Um,
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, whatever. Tom Holland is who we really like. I just think he's a good guy. So anything he puts out, I'm at least interested in. But anyway, Spider-Man is awesome. we're not going to ever reforge Spider-Man because they're
There's
perfect.
no need. There's
Yeah.
no need.
No need. They did a fantastic job.
Well,
Uh,
that remains to be seen. We'll find out
okay,
in
all right.
2026.
The past movies. Depending on where it goes, we'll have to, But again, right here, they are trying to bring in new characters. So you introduce the Red Guardian, you introduce Yelena, um, and the mom character may play a role or not. She's kind of taking on that smart scientific role. I don't know if she's
Right.
gonna, resume, but presumably you need someone strong, you need someone, I don't know what Yelena falls into, but like
Pseudo ninja, I guess.
pseudo ninja. You need a replacement for Scarlett Johansson's character, pseudo ninja. You need someone that can go out and kick butt, I guess. And there you go. So you're introducing those two characters, and then you've kind of got someone who can be like a hybrid Tony Stark, Bruce Banner kind of character, someone who has a brain, I guess. Um,
Right.
so you have those two things moving forward, three things moving forward. And I feel like that was the point. Was it able to, set up, did it do its job, I guess, of setting those things up? Yes. Is it fair that we're criticizing because it's a Black Widow movie and that seems to be the only reason they did it and we didn't have any real stakes? I can understand where you're coming from because yes, she's dead. Black Widow is dead to begin with.
Don't think I didn't catch that Christmas Carol reference.
Marley was dead to begin with. Um, sorry, I couldn't help it. It's just who I am. But I think that's an okay way to begin. Because you're introducing a character that you like from a business standpoint. It's like, okay, we're talking about Black Widow. Who doesn't like Scarlett Johansson? Like let's bring that character in, let's do something around her. It's low stakes because we're beginning this new saga of films, and this is the one that we're starting off. We're trying to bring people in, get people interested again, maybe introduce a couple of new characters, and like the idea, I guess, was you want something old, and then you've got, Shang-Chi, Shang-Chi, I don't know, I can't remember how they pronounce it, and I just watched the movie yesterday. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and Eternals that came out that year, you needed a bridge between Endgame, something that they wanted, or something semi-familiar, and then these two new movies to kind of bridge that and kind of, for Marvel to introduce new people, I guess. So I think it's fine. I think it works a little bit because if you said Endgame is over. We just had, Far From Home, and then um, we just jump into the Red Guardian and Yelena. And if you call it that, are you gonna watch?
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I think that they chose the wrong movie. Like it does a disservice to Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson. It's like they forgot about her and now they're just using her to bridge the gap. Like it does a disservice to the character, especially with how big a role she played from Iron Man 2 all the way until Endgame. I mean, that was like what, 15 years? 15 years of films, and they couldn't give her her own standalone film until her character was already dead. Like I have a problem fundamentally with that. And it's like it makes it harder for me to care because I know she's dead. And I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, you have to introduce new characters. And maybe that is one of the weaknesses of phase four, and there's no way to really get around it because you have to introduce new characters, right?
Right.
So naturally, it's going to be kind of starting over. You're starting over essentially with Iron Man, and you have to build back up over those 15 years, right?
Right.
But I don't know. I don't think they chose the right movie. You know, you can introduce Red Guardian and Yelena and whatever the mom's name is. You can introduce those characters really in any film, you know, and you can have them have a standalone film. I know you said who's going to watch the Red Guardian and Yelena Belova. Like, yeah, I get it. It's not exactly that exciting, but you can introduce them in any other film, though. You know what I mean? And then explore their backstory in a subsequent film.
Right.
You know, it's like you you're cramming so much into one film, and the fact that it happened 10 years ago in the timeline, it falls flat for me.
Okay. So let me ask this question, okay? Because it's a timing thing. Now, if they had done this in, well, let me just read down the list and you tell me and see if it fits in phase one through phase three. Okay. So just
Go ahead.
hypothetically. So uh this happens after Civil War
Hmm.
when everything is there. So let's go next. You've got Doctor Strange, Guardians 2, Homecoming, Ragnarok, Black Panther, and Infinity War. And presumably it's before Infinity War starts because
It
she's in
is
that.
absolutely.
So you have like, does it fit in between those films? And if you did it, I mean, November 2016, May 2017 for Guardians, Spider-Man Homecoming came out in 2017, and Thor Ragnarok came out in 2017, Black Panther February of 2018, and then it was Infinity War.
When did
So,
Infinity War come out? What
uh,
month?
Infinity War came out April 27th, 2018. So if you
I
do it before then, are you okay with the movie, or is it because you don't know that she's dead, and then you take out all of the references to Black Widow being dead?
Well, I think that's exactly what you do. You you push Infinity War to July, which in my mind makes more sense anyway because it's summer and you have more people available to go and see the film, and you put Black Widow in that April spot because that's where it makes sense. For something like this, you have to have it go in timeline order because otherwise it's like, well, why does it matter? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like we already know she was imprisoned in no, she wasn't imprisoned because she took Tony's side. She no, she ends up taking Cap's side in the end anyway, doesn't she? So
Yeah.
she's imprisoned in at the end of Civil War, and then she shows up in Infinity War with Steve, right?
Right.
And if you have something in between there, it makes it more exciting. You know what I mean? Like it's like if there was any part of the timeline that I would want an idea into, it would be that time. But it doesn't matter after I already know that she's dead.
Right.
You know, it's like it would have added to Infinity War. It's like, okay, well, how did Steve and Natasha get out? How what were they spending their time doing? They were on the run, but like, how did it happen? You know?
Right.
But after Infinity War happens, Endgame happens, I don't care. I don't care about that point in time because it's not building up to anything,
Right.
you know? And so, yeah, I think it would have made a huge difference if they had released it then. And yeah, I think you leave and it also leaves some questions of okay, well, where were the Red Guardian and Yelena during Infinity War and Endgame? And if you have um, maybe at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, your end credit scene could still be Yelena visiting the grave of Natasha. You know what I mean? And then it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, she's here. She still has something to do. And then you know what I mean? Like you can still do this film, but you released it about 5 years too late. That's my biggest problem.
Okay. So let's suspend reality
Sure.
and say, okay, they released Infinity War in July. They pushed Ant-Man and the Wasp back to say October, and you have April 27th is Black Widow.
Hmm.
Okay. And then they made that change just like you suggested. Dive into the movie with me, okay? Because the timeline no longer exists,
Timeline no longer exists.
and that gets rid of your um
Chief
whatever,
complaint.
your chief complaint. Talk to me about the movie, the actual events that happened in the movie. What are your thoughts on how they did?
Okay, well, I got two problems. Number one, the mind control. I mean, that has been done to death. I mean, you see it in um, the original Avengers, where
Hmm.
Loki uses mind control. And then it comes back a little bit in the second Avengers when Scarlet Witch tries to influence the minds of others. You know, it's like, and then we were talking about mind control. Oh, just last week with Brave New World. You know what I mean? Like it was an interesting idea the first time,
Hmm.
but it has been done to death, and it I don't know. I would have been more interested in an actual criminal organization that, everybody from top down is a
Has bought
criminal and
in,
has bought in, yes. Because if you don't, then it's like, well, it's not their fault. We can't harm them. You know what I mean? And like I said, it was interesting the first time, but it's been done too much.
right,
And then I don't quite get the villain here. Like what is even his motivation? To control every young girl in the world for unknown reasons.
right.
Like it just I don't think it quite resonated for me. And maybe it does for the female audience a little more, but I don't see his motivation, and it's just he's evil and he's doing this because he can. And maybe that sounds like I'm backtracking on previous thoughts. Sometimes I say I want a villain with backstory and with motivation, and then sometimes I say, well, I want a Joker who just wants to see the world burn. But I think it has to coincide with what's going on with the film,
Right.
you know? And he doesn't want to watch the world burn. He wants to have an army of Black Widows for an undisclosed purpose. Like
Right.
it just can't quite connect the dots here.
So so in my mind, and it is difficult to it's difficult to do any of this and think it through for me. Um, because we kind of don't know. You go back in the past, you go into the future. Sometimes the Marvel universe gets convoluted, but you kind of have the, you've got the Russian spy in the United States, and
Right.
they're on a 3-year undercover mission. They are doing whatever they're doing, and then they escape to Cuba. Like that part makes sense of me. A Russian patriot general trying to save his country, I can get behind that.
Right.
But that's it. Then the Cold War ends. If we're following real history, the Cold
Hmm.
War ends. Um, Russia turns into this kind of free for all for a while. It's run by the mafia and ex-KGB agents, and you kind of have this consolidation of what's going to happen, who's going to take power, all of that. So like, and I don't pretend to be a Russian history whatever, but 1991, 92, like that kind of era, that was in flux after the Cold War. So like consolidating power, taking over that area, I guess makes sense. But like again, the villain angle, why? What to what point and purpose is he gathering all of these people, all of these, women? And to be fair, um, if you are trying to influence the world or take over or be a powerhouse, like, okay or not, women get overlooked everywhere. And if you're talking trying to influence third world countries and kind of from the background and being manipulative or, subtle and weaving a web of whatever, it makes sense to me. Like, you take these people that are often underlooked, you give them power and ideas and this subtle, again, it goes back to I wish everyone had been bought into this, but it's like you give them this
Right.
subtle like we're doing this for mother, I can't do the accent, for Mother
For
Russia,
Mother Russia.
right? Or like you take these people that have been indoctrinated, so to speak, with whatever. And or they have willingly bought in to whatever the point is. And they go and they do because they think it's the right thing. Again, did we talk about this last week? No
Hmm.
one thinks they're the villain. They
Right.
they think that they are on the side of right, or they convince themselves that their cause is just enough that whatever they are doing is the right thing to do.
Right.
Um, I think we went back to, and I don't know if this was with you or with someone else, but I was talking about World War II and Germany and all of these things, and like, how do you how do you get to that point to where you convince yourself that the concentration camps and the 13 million dead people that you killed in these concentration camps was okay? How do you get to that point? Well, I don't know. I can't imagine it, but how does the leader, who I don't know if we're going to name, Hitler, how does Hitler come to power, convince himself that that is the right thing to do, that he is going to protect Germany or whatever, and this is the thing to do, and he convinces himself that it's okay to that point?
And that's what I want to know too. But like you said, I don't think he thought he was the villain.
Right, he did not.
By all accounts, there is no question he is one of the most evil men in history.
Hmm.
But he didn't think so.
Right,
I think the point here though is like there's no purpose with this villain in Black Widow. You
right.
know, like you said, Hitler at least was trying to make Germany the greatest country or whatever, or
Right, like he had this entire thing. World War II happened, and Germany gets stuck with this huge bill, and then you've got the Jewish population coming in, and they're not allowed to own land, according to what I've gleaned. They're not allowed to own land or do anything, so they become really good with money. And so they are viewed as this like rich, miserly people, I guess. That's where the term comes from. But like this people, and it was an easy place to focus on that these people are hoarding money, they're here in our country, they are the problem with our country, we're poor, but we need to get better. Like it was a place to focus people's uh, anger at the outcome and the political situation of World War One in Germany to everywhere else. And so you've got this people who are under, they're trying to pay back this bill and they feel humiliated and then you have this charismatic leader coming in with German Aryan pride and he does this thing. And so like not that we need to get into a history lesson, but like that is Hitler's motivation and the motivation of most Germans. I don't think most Germans were like, yes, let's murder 7 million Jews. That was not the case at all. Most of them were like, let's let's build Germany into something that we can be proud of again. Let's capture what was German, you know. And I think that's how you get, I don't want to say swept up into things, but like that's how you get swept up into things. You have this political uh atmosphere and someone comes in and takes advantage of it. And the motivation for Hitler was not, well, I don't know what his motivation was, but for most of the people involved, it was this pride in your ancestry and this pride in your country that you have, and you're trying to get out from under the yoke of we were the problem or we got saddled with the bill for World War One and we're the ones that everyone hates and all of this stuff. So like that was the backdrop then. And to bring it all the way back, we need that in Black Widow. And I don't know what that should be, but we need that in Black Widow because you need the leader to come in and trying to make something great. Because again, the problem with this is the villain is just it's just like I hate to say it this way. It was like we need someone that can be bad. Here's an old white guy trying to control women. And like I'm not saying that that isn't something that happens. There are plenty of people who are like that, and human trafficking and all of those things are real. But it seems like the character is too lazy because they were just they needed a villain, so they created a generic villain. And that's the issue.
I think that's what it is. He's generic. There's nothing to set him apart. You barely even see him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because you're dealing with the mind controlled widows, right?
Right.
So the villain gets no screen time and he becomes forgettable. I don't even know his name.
Yeah.
I watched a recap last night and I don't even know his name. You know what I mean? Like it it just it fell flat for that reason.
And
And
go back to last week with me. Like we kind of had the same issue. We wanted more from what did we call him? Brain Man?
Gamma Brain, Gamma
Gamma
Head.
Brain, whatever his name is. We wanted more from him, but at least with him you can see his backstory. Like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
you have a reason for him to be pissed off and trying to do what he's doing. Now, do we wish it had been more fleshed out and you would have had more? Of course, but at least having him there shows there was a reason behind this, not just generic white guy bad.
Right.
And
So
so, go ahead.
I was gonna just say, so what, how would you fix it?
So,
Unless there are more things you want to talk about that need to be fixed.
the two things, and I come back to the mind control thing too. I am I'm not convinced that the mind control thing is the way to go. Um, because it's too easy again. It takes the stakes out of it. It takes people's agency away, and that almost ruins the film for me. I mean,
Well,
what is more terrifying than people who believe in a cause who are clearly, you know, they are I don't want to say brainwashed, but like they believe in this cause so much that they are willing to do something, but they use their brains to get to that point because someone came in and said, I mean, and I think this is where I'd go from it. Someone comes in and says, from this young age, they are taking these girls and saying, they don't think you're going to amount to anything, but you can do anything, and we're going to show you how, and we're going to take over the world. And then
well,
you have
it's
this ear hook your entire life that goes into that.
it's the difference between true manipulation and this, well, we'll just put a chip in their head that makes them do what we want.
Right.
And the much more compelling story arc is the manipulation,
The
to
manipulation.
manipulate somebody into doing something.
Hmm.
That is one of the most sinister villainous arcs that I can think of, is the manipulation. It's why I love the Star Wars prequels so much, is because you see the manipulation of Palpatine,
Yeah.
or manipulation of Anakin by Palpatine.
Right.
And to be able to do that on a large scale, I think would have so much more of an impact, because
Right.
you're not just, you know, catching a fish and putting a chip in it so that you can make it go where you want. You're creating a movement. You're actually taking over the world, not by uh technology, but by charisma and by cunning. That's what a good villain is, not just hiding behind some piece of tech, you know?
Right. Well, let's go, not to get political again and bring the real world in, but think of some of these Middle Eastern countries that believe so firmly in, these people believe so firmly in their cause that they will do unspeakable things. They will strap a bomb to their chest and blow up a mosque or a synagogue or something because they believe in whatever they have been told. That's so much more terrifying
Mm-hmm.
than yeah, we put a chip in their brain, or we figured out how to unlock someone's brain so we can control them, and
Right.
all of these things. And it's like the entire plot was this guy has done so much research that he can control women and he can get into their brain, and he has this little tablet that he can, control millions of people with because he knows how to do it. And it's like that's that is a lazy way to do things.
It is.
And to say again, you have this entire population of the world that is underlooked and or overlooked, not underlooked, overlooked and shunted to the side, and they don't matter, and it's a man's world. And if you took that angle and had a strong, charismatic leader that can whisper and create this network of women who are all geared towards overthrowing the world because they can do it better than the men who are clearly, you know, ruining things or whatever. Like from that angle, I think you could build something truly terrifying.
Well, and I think taking it from that kind of a perspective, it's like you take a real world conflict or a real world idea, and then you move it to an extreme.
Hmm.
There are instances where women are not treated fairly,
Right.
and that is an actual real world grievance.
Yes.
And you take that, but then you magnify it and you radicalize it so
Right.
that there's actually something that you can believe in. It's like, yeah, this started as something good, but then it got inflamed and now it's snowballed into something that is too much and it's bad. It's doing harm,
Right.
you know, and that is something that I think is much more compelling. And by that same logic, I think you switch the villain from being old white man who is a horrible guy, but a generic villain, and turn it into a woman who actually had stake in the game,
Hmm.
who was trying to do something right. And then you can add some conflict into Black Widow's character, and say, well, yeah, I agree with some of the things that you're doing, but you're doing them in the wrong way or you're going too far. So I
Uh-huh.
think you talked a lot about the mind control. I mean, we've kind of been going back and forth, but creating a movement, I would change the villain from old white guy who can control, all the women in the world with technology to charismatic, sinister female villain who is also Black Widow trained and can kick butt, but is this influential figure who is trying to, or in the beginning was trying to create justified real change and then goes too far.
Right. And here's my take on that. I want that woman and all of the women at a certain level bought into that idea, propping up some schmuck of a man to make him look like he's the villain and maybe even convince him that he is in charge and subtly manipulating things and doing whatever. And that's the twist of the movie is you spend, you know, 2/3 of a 90-minute movie thinking, um, generic white guy whose name I can't remember, General whoever, is the actual villain, and then it's like, nope, he's just a schmuck that we manipulated, and you know, yeah, he thought X, Y, and Z, but in real reality, we were using him to get resources to do whatever, and it was really whoever was in the mask with super serum, Black Widow,
Taskmaster.
you know? Yeah. Or someone else. It doesn't matter who to me, but again, someone who takes that to the extreme and finds all of those people that will take that woman power, injustice, core, whatever, to the extreme with them, and they create this amazing, terrifying organization that kidnaps women and, kidnaps young females, 2, 3 years old, or, you know, coerces parents to give them up or whatever they happen to do, and then indoctrinates this group of Black Widows all the way up to where they are now. So you've got this core of butt-kicking ninja types who are also subtle and can go and do things and whatever, and then you expand on that, and I don't know, that makes it feel real in a way that is scary and real world kind of problem.
Well, I like that idea because you think about it, it kind of goes back to that idea of we were talking about with Hitler, where it's like the ends justify the means,
Hmm.
at least in their mind. And in the name of liberating women, you're kidnapping women to indoctrinate them as children. And
Uh-huh.
it's like it's I think that would be a very compelling story arc.
I
And you know what I mean? But um yeah, I think that would be a very compelling way to go about the story.
and can I maybe I will get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to. The thing about it is I like that like the Black Widows are martially trained and they can do whatever. I wish there was more to them than we're just a bunch of butt kickers and that's all we do. And if you get past that that point, I guess, and say like the Black Widows that make it to Black Widow status are people who, yes, they were indoctrinated, but they have skills and other things rather than just we're mind controlled zombies who our entire point is to go out and fight and that's it. Because then it cheapens what makes women so great and why what they bring to the table. They don't bring super strength or anything like that to the table, genetically speaking. It's, I don't know. You see where I'm going with this? It's like let's take what they can actually do seriously. They can go out and, you know, get into, I don't want to say get into situations that men cannot get into, but like they can infiltrate places that men can't. They can, uh, you know, again, they can convince General White Guy that he's in charge when he's not. They can manipulate. They can, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I understand. Yeah.
And so I'm not saying, that I dislike the idea of a woman being able to handle herself and go out and do things because I think that's what makes the Black Widows so scary and awesome. It's that that becomes their only identity is a group of people who that's all they do is, yep, we just want women killers. When in reality, it's like we want this core group of this organization that they can think and they can do and they can think on their feet and they can, go around unnoticed and be the true assassins of the world and kick butt. Does that make
Well, and I
sense?
think, yeah, I get you. I think putting an emphasis on the espionage aspect of it, the
Yeah.
infiltration, like you said, and even having them become public figures in some cases,
Hmm.
you can keep, you can have each agent still be trained in, their martial capacity, but yeah, I think becoming an assassin should be the lowest level
Right.
of a Black Widow. And like you said, as you advance, you become more skilled in infiltration and in persuasion and in politics and in all of these types of things so that you can, it's like it's a more well-rounded character,
Right.
and a more well-rounded villain or threat, you know.
And think of it like this, like a calculating villain doing stuff for the cause, you know. Like again, we want some woman to be at the head of this, and she is doing what is necessary. Well, like how many, Nat is it what's Black Widow's name?
Natasha,
Natasha. How many Natashas do you think there could have been that escaped from the organization, severed ties, you know, and thought that they had destroyed something? How many do you think this group had killed before it got to that?
probably tons.
Probably tons, and then how many of like make Natasha special in that she saw this and I like the idea. They were trying to destroy the Red Room, so the backstory is that she and Clint blew up the building with the white guy in it and killed
Mhm.
him, and then they never heard of the Red Room again. And it's like, okay, do that. She thinks that she won, but that means that Natasha did what no one else could have done, which is essentially remove them from, not remove them from the public eye, like she was implicit in the Red Room female conspiracy thing, but to say, hey, she got out where no one else did.
Right.
And not only did she get out, but she caused serious damage and had to reevaluate things. But again, she wasn't high enough in the organization to know that the manipulated white guy wasn't the real threat. He
Right.
wasn't the power behind it. And so she got to that point where she was dangerous enough and had clearly had these skills that were, you know, important and could think and was, but was doing the right thing and getting out of there. Yeah, she went to S.H.I.E.L.D., but like, you know what I mean? Does that make
Right.
sense? Like, prop her up as like, yeah, she missed. They tried to kill her 4 or 5 times. She kept evading and then did this, blew up the building with the white guy in it or whatever, and it was like killed the man. Hooray. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, it does. And I think it it makes a lot more sense to have somebody else behind the curtain, you know, and then find out, yeah, this program kept going because the white guy wasn't the head of it, and instead of, well, I guess he survived somehow, even though
Hmm.
we blew up the building and he's a regular person, he came out unscathed somehow.
Right.
Palpatine returned. You know what I mean? Like, it would have made much more sense to have a completely separate power structure behind the scenes that even the white guy didn't know about. You know what I
Right.
mean? To the point that Black Widow didn't know about it. So,
Or even, I mean, my mind is jumping to Batman Returns, or not Batman Returns, Batman Begins, and Ra's al Ghul. How
mhm,
Bruce Wayne thinks this is, you know, that's Ra's al Ghul, that's who he is. And then it's not until Gotham is threatened by the real Ra's al Ghul, who is Liam Neeson's character, that you realize, oh my gosh, that was the twist.
mhm.
That's the kind of thing that I wish would have happened here because it's very linear. It's very, you know, they tried to get cute with it a little bit where they're like, okay, they go and they meet the mom and she's got her things, and then they do the face, the Mission Impossible face swap thing.
Mhm.
And, it's like, okay, cool. But
There's no real
again,
twist though.
that was like the only twist was
Mhm.
this is Natasha, not the mom, whose name
Right.
I can't remember. So that's my issue. I feel like everything in the movie could have been the exact same. Um, and all you do is have, a younger version of the woman around General what's his name when they get to Cuba, and then they get farther and farther along, and then they kill the white guy for real. But that's not what was going on.
Mhm.
And then you have to find some way to defeat um, an entire airship full of those junior Black Widows, not the real ones, but the junior Black Widows. And then here's the thing: Natasha dies in Endgame,
Mhm.
but you have Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Endgame, like in between the death, if we're putting this in the timeline correctly. Then you can go back and you can say, okay, what were Red Guardian and Yelena doing? They're tracking down the remnants of the Black Widow and the Red Room, the real
Exactly.
remnants. They are doing something that no one else knows about.
It gives them purpose instead of just
Right,
existing, waiting to be called upon for the thunderbolts.
right.
Yeah.
So I guess if we were to sum up, Zach, we want to get, well, in an ideal world, to really reforge this, we need to reforge the entire Marvel Phase 3, but we can't do
Just
that.
the
So,
release schedule.
yeah, we just need to, okay, yeah, we need to go back in time and amend the schedule
Yes.
and somehow find enough time to bring a whole nother movie in and film it and, whatever. So we do that. But to fix the movie itself, mind control, we should be done with mind control. We can
Hmm.
find another way to make these people terrifying. And to do that, we kind of make this radicalized female empowerment cult, for back lack of a better term, where they are, doing the same thing. They kidnap and indoctrinate these young women. They're building up this thing. They are, from the time they are young, putting this idea into them. They're eliminating anyone who seems to reject that and building this organization that they can then infiltrate governments in the world and all of these things. And then you don't know any of that because you think it's, General what's his name is being the power behind it. And so all of the same things happen the same way. Natasha gets out. She thinks she destroys the Red Room because she blew up the building the guy was in. And then she and Clint go and join Shield, and she becomes an Avenger and does all these things. But then you've got this secret organization in the background who are smart enough to be dangerous. Like they all knew that Natasha was an Avenger. They could have gone
Hmm.
out and tried to kill her, but instead they're smart enough to not get fixated and to leave her. And then you find out that this is a thing, and you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
think that is compelling. And then the real villain is a really smart, powerful Black Widow. I think I want that version to be super serumed, because I think that adds another layer of, well, how come she is the leader when there are a whole bunch of other people? It's like, well, no one could kill her, so you know, she somehow manipulated her way into getting a vial of that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just throwing that in
Something.
there. But it doesn't matter. Female is the actual logic and villain behind it, and she's the one that has been calling all the shots. And you don't find that out until, you know, three-quarters of the way through the movie, or two-thirds, when you kill the general, and that wasn't it.
Right.
Anything else? We talked a lot.
We did talk a lot. I think that's about it.
All right.
It it had a lot of potential, but it did fall flat. There are, like you said, simple things to change where you can have the same story beats, but change just small things, and it would have made this film a lot better.
Right. Well, hypothetically, and this will be my last thought because we're over time anyway, but like, go back to your original gripe that it was like inconsequential because you knew that Natasha was dead and that everyone else was going to survive.
Hmm.
If you have an organization that they have to go after that could be part of something bigger, it could have been um like Cobra, is that who was the villain in
Hydra,
Hydra.
Hydra.
Like some sort of organization like that where there's this like branch, but there's something bigger going on.
Hmm.
That could be an intriguing whatever. But like,
Right.
say Natasha dies, but she uncovers this huge conspiracy with her, you know, siblings, and at the very end of the movie, they say, Natasha says, I have to go save the world. And they say, we're going to go do this.
Hmm.
And so you can explain why Natasha wasn't out there with Red Guardian and Yelena
And why they weren't with her.
and why they weren't with her. So they're out trying to uncover the rest of this organization, and that sets up something for after Endgame. But then you go to Natasha, who's out saving the world.
Right.
She's taking on the bigger task of how are we going to keep the world from dying? These two go and they're starting to figure out, okay, once we figure out how to get rid of, Thanos and the aliens and protect the world, let's make sure we have a world to come back to.
Right.
So I think that's the way to go. And I think even if you did that, knowing that's what happened and that Natasha is dead, I think that gives weight to what happened enough that I would be okay with where they released it. It's not ideal,
But it makes it better.
makes it better.
I agree.
So I
Well, I
guess,
think,
no, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, no.
Say, I think that sums up our thoughts.
It does. And again, if you've made it this far, thanks for making it this far. What are your thoughts on this? Did we miss the mark again? Are we awesome? Which Zach and I think we are, which is why we're doing this. Should we be involved in the Marvel universe and we could just make everything better? That's the one. Start the petition. Um, but no, drop a comment. Let us know what you think. We're going to continue on with this multiverse saga and go through for the next little bit. So we want your opinions. Are we on the right track or are we not?
If you want to check out our video talking about Brave New World, click the link above my head. And for all our other content, check out our channel on the link above Trevor's head.
All right. Well, we are going to end there. Trevor, Zach, we're reforging fiction.